Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome back to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. Our campaign is entitled A Time to Harvest. It was written by Brian Simmons, Charles P. Zaglanis, Glenn Owen Barras, and Mike Mason, and it's available on the Chaosium website. Jeff Wilkins is our game master, and this is Chapter 2, Episode 7. So, without any further delay, let's continue our journey into the darkness. Jeff?
Thanks, Tom. So a little recap as memory serves. You had a encounter at the graveyard. It went well, bad, not sure.
It ended up with him committing suicide. So
Right. Bad for him. But you managed to escape with your lives, so that was good. We had the incident where Danny had some sort of, medical condition maybe that spewed forth some sort of smoke. But you managed to basically escape those that were chasing you. You made it back to the dorm room, I think, briefly, and then you decided to pretty much spend the night and hole up at Jerry's house, not too far from the campus.
Right.
And then I think we pretty much left it off where you have some idea what's going on, but you might not have all the facts you need. So it's kind of, you're kind of in a rough spot as far as trying to make decisions. And you last decided that you were going to go visit Professor Armitage in the library.
Right.
I'll ask too, since we're just kind of jumping in after 2 weeks, does anybody have any questions that I could answer specifically, or do you want to just jump right to it?
Yeah, I can't think of any questions.
I'm happy to just jump straight in.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it was that morning. So just to clarify then, in the cemetery, Rod asked you to basically, avenge him and his family. And he pretty much gave you the deadline. He says you have 2 days. So you spent the night at Jerry's. So now technically you have this full day to do what you want. And then the next day would be day 2. So it could happen 8 a.m. in the morning. It could happen late at night. There's no real time frame. You don't have any clue on times yet.
That's when I think that they're going to set the bomb off.
Well, as I said before, I'm prepared to go and talk to Armitage just purely so that someone knows that this is going on in case anything happens to us.
Well, let's be on our way then. We'll have a few more minutes to talk in the car.
All right. So let's go. We're all in the car.
So is the shotgun, in case there was any uncertainty about that. I guess it's a hunting rifle, not a shotgun. Okay, so we're driving over.
Which, by the way, Jerry, chances are good that the time has elapsed enough that your new rifle probably would be in. You might want to spend some time and swing by and check it, or.
Yeah, if it's, it's not too far out of the way, is it?
Yeah, no, not that far. It's right.
All right.
Right on Main Street, I think.
Yeah, so I stop there.
You want to stop there first thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it in fact there?
Yeah. Now it's still early in the morning, so the library doesn't open until 9. So we'll say, 8:30?
Okay. Well, is the gun shop open that early?
Yeah, I'll say they opened at 8. So they welcome you in. They say, "Oh yes, Mr. Dorn, we have your rifle for you."
Thank you. And you have a good supply of ammunition for this?
Sure. Yep. He grabs a box, right? Box of bullets.
All right. Well, thank you kindly. Nice doing business with you.
Yes.
Y'all have a good day.
Yep.
Okay, Jeff, so now there are 2 firearms in the car with suitable ammunition, and we're back on the way. I'd like to park as close to the library as possible in the event that we, for some reason, need
3.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify. Does anybody else want to chime in on that?
I only have a knife.
Someone's got a pistol.
Yeah, I've got my pistol.
Yeah.
And you've got a sock full of quarters.
I've got a sock full of quarters.
Yeah, I guess if we're specifying other armaments,
75 cents worth.
I believe I lost one knife, so I've replaced that. There should be one on me. I've replaced the other, so now there should be two in the car. One in the glove box, and the other probably where I could reach it.
Why am I getting a sudden image of like Jerry in like a camouflage bandana?
To go to the library.
Yeah.
And you know, we're going to make too much noise. Somebody's going to go shh, and you're going to go, "Don't shush me." I got a gun.
Or the other way around, right? I'm reading. People keep like tittering and whispering and acting like, you know, college students. The gun just comes on the table. So I assume is there parking like right by the library?
You know what? Let me just double check. I think it's right. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the library is basically on the corner of the block. So it's, you know, right near Tug's dormitory. And you could either park right on the street, or we'll say there's a little parking lot just off the street.
I'll go for the little parking lot.
Okay.
All right, so what exactly are we planning to tell him? Let's be sure that our story is straight but not too straight.
Well, let's just tell him what's going on, everything that we've seen. See what his opinion is.
I just want to be sure that we're agreed on what we've seen, or that we know that we don't agree on what we've seen.
Well, he's not going to question us individually, so we're all going to be there.
Well, then I suppose we can surprise each other. Hopefully not. So I start walking toward the library then.
I hope I don't have a coffin fit.
You don't want a coffin fit?
Wait,
in the library.
Danny, I thought that happened because you wanted it to happen.
Let's just forget it. Let's go on with it.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about it.
Forget it like you forgot the almanac that it came from, you mean?
All right.
All right, let's go.
Yo, Dr. Armitage.
Yeah, so it's pretty much, you know, it's very early in the morning. Library pretty much just opened. One thing I will tell you that you'd notice, so the other students that had that daily routine, they're not there right now. So,
right.
Well, I suppose that's lucky. We look around. Is it obvious where Professor Armitage is? Does he have an office?
Yes.
Is there like a central desk?
Yep, he's on the top floor. I want to say second floor. Second? Is that third? Second? No, third.
Okay.
Third floor. He's on the top, and he's in the rare books collection.
Okay.
Would a map be helpful, or
no?
If you think so,
we'll just go there.
All right. So, knock knock.
Yep. So he's sitting in his office. He's got a nice big container of thermos of coffee, and he's pouring himself a cup of coffee. And he looks up and he's like, "Yes, come on in."
Good morning, Professor.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had the pleasure of taking any of your courses. I'm Jerry Dorn. I'm an anthropology student specializing in folklore. This is my friend Tug, also in anthropology and folklore. He's done some geology as well, and this is Jasper and Jasper Price and Danny. You may know about the recent research expedition to Cobb's Corners. It was a joint anthropology and geology field trip.
Yes, I do remember. Some problems I heard with that.
Well, yes, there sure were. Cobb's Corners is is a right strange place. And we were hoping that you might be able to help us get a better understanding of some of what we observed. What kind of other reports have you heard from any of the others?
And he looks at you and he says, what we observed? So you were part of the students that went there?
Yes, that's right. Yes, we were all part of the research group. It looks like there's a bit more geology, but a couple of us also in the anthropology group.
Doc, what do you know about strange things going on? I mean, we live in Arkham, and you know, we there's all sorts of old rumors and stuff, and we're in folklore. That's what we're in. But look, we're the troublemakers from that whole expedition that went. We're the ones that they're labeling as troublemakers. But we're becoming really, really convinced that the other students who came back aren't who they claim they are. And I know that sounds fucking crazy. Sorry for my language. But my buddy, Hawkins, doesn't speak German. But now he does, and he's got a German accent.
Higgins.
Sorry. I was confusing with
the
guy in the wheelchair.
Well, that's just it, Professor. It's a bit beyond them just not being themselves or even seeming like themselves. It's fairly clear they're not themselves. This isn't based on our speculations. We've had extraordinarily strange experiences from the time we arrived in Cobb's Corners. Really until just last night. Now, my understanding, although again I can't claim any great familiarity with your own work, but my understanding from others who have taken a more literary direction to their studies is that you are extremely well versed in esoteric and arcane matters, and none of us could think of any professor on the campus who would be more likely to appreciate some of what we have to account. So do you think you might have a bit of time? There's a shorter version which would be more extraordinary and fabulous due to lack of context, or a longer account. But that depends on how much interest you have in this sort of thing.
We've seen some weird things in the last month.
And we've all seen more or less the same weird things, which it seems to me puts this in a more scientific category than it might be otherwise.
We've seen things that you would label us as crazy if we told you.
With the exception that we've all seen the same things, which tends to rule out being labeled as crazy out of hand.
And at least one case, we've actually got proof. And I'm going to pull the small flint knife out of my pocket.
Well, yes, that's right. Jasper here has a bit more archaeological background than those of us who are more in folklore, and this is an extraordinary specimen from what he said. Jasper, since this is the physical evidence, maybe you'd like to start and give Professor Armitage some context.
Well, Professor, this is going to sound insane, but when we were on the field trip, in addition to many other things that happened, we encountered what I can only describe as a race of intelligent or semi-intelligent mole things.
Mole people.
Mole people that were capable of tool use. This was a rudimentary flint tool that they were using.
Look, they attacked me. I've still got see here on my neck?
Yes, by using Jasper means
That wasn't the weirdest
wielded,
thing that happened to
wielded
us.
as a weapon.
That wasn't the weirdest thing.
No, initially that was initially the first truly extraordinary thing. We considered, or at least I considered, heading back here immediately, taking one of them as specimens. This was before we realized that they seemed to have the intelligence, at least of some kind of a savage indigenous tribe. Unfortunately, we were unable to apprehend one. I shot one of them, but, well, when I first realized that this was beyond as strange as it first appeared, is when they went back to retrieve the body.
Yeah, but Jerry, we did have one of them. We got one of them in a sack, and the other ones all attacked us viciously.
Yes, that's right.
They attacked everyone in our party. All of those other students, they got attacked too, and none of them remember it. None of them remember it.
Professor Armitage, but telling you a lot of different things here, just to say that all of the students, apart from us, came back changed. And they seem to have split into two groups, and one group has been coming to the library and the other group has been attending the science department. We believe that they have probably tricked or led the professor there into believing they're experimenting on something and they're doing something else. And we have reason to believe that they want to destroy or remove a number of books from the library, which they believe is evidence of another race, a non-human race, which has interfered in human history. And there's a group been coming to the library for the last few days. We've tried to follow them, and they've been looking at certain books, and we believe they're going to damage, remove, steal. We don't know what they're going to do, but it's going to affect the library and maybe the science department.
Well, Professor, you've heard the beginning of the account and the end and the conclusion. As I said, we could fill in the middle details, but let me give you the briefest summary I can, so that this is coherent, if incredible. In the course of our time in Cobb's Corners, we encountered a variety of beings which were assuredly inhuman, observed what appeared to be some means of ingress and egress into, well, the only sciences we know are archaeology and geology, but it certainly seemed to me to be some other kind of dimension.
The doorway into another dimension.
Well, yes, it really had a very literal, very physical appearance. And upon our returning, as we've explained, our former colleagues, it became apparent that their personalities were quite changed. Their memories seemed unreliable, and eventually, one of them accounted to having been someone else completely, to have been replaced, and they acted as the agents of beings of an alien provenance. And in the end, he committed suicide. As I will note, did maybe you've already heard about Robert Blaine. So
he was involved in this stuff too.
Yeah. So before his untimely end, yeah, please, Tug, go ahead. Yes.
Jasper, tell him about John.
Well, yes, Professor, this is the most extraordinary and the most bizarre part of the account, but it does tie it together, if you wouldn't mind, Jasper.
Well, we found him.
He's talking about John Jeffries, the kid that disappeared last year.
We found him sort of inside a rock, as though his body materialized inside a rock. There were
in the sense that limbs were extending from the rock. Is that right?
He was stuck in the rock.
there were wires and things. Wires and things coming out of his head, and I could see in his eyes that he was suffering immensely, and God help me, I put him out of his misery.
What does Armitage look like at
But
this?
when we look back, he was gone. He wasn't even there anymore.
And by wires and head, he means exposed, exposed brain.
I would like our GM to do an impression of Armitage's face right now. 'Cause I don't know what he's looking.
He's looking like, I got to get out of here. These kids are nuts.
Well, if you notice, he's been rather quiet as you guys lay all this out there. And I think it would be funny that, you know, after this is posted and recorded, you go back and listen to yourselves. Like, if somebody came up to you and just relayed that story to you, in spite of the fact that you were known for being a folklore specialist, I don't.
Well, this is Henry Armitage, though, so.
You kids, get the hell out of my office.
That's what I'm like. It's right on the borderline. He's really. First of all right.
Get off my lawn.
Let's be honest. We hit with everything. There was mole men. There was alien races. There was.
You did not hold back at all.
I thought we were going to tell him somebody was going to burn these books. Anyway, shall we roll a fast talk?
Yeah.
We're telling the truth, though, so that wouldn't follow. I mean, if it's necessary to roll something, I would prefer, I think, to roll charm.
How about if I just say, look, Doc, I know this all sounds crazy. What we're worried about is we think that those students are up to something, and we also know that they have a time limit, and that's tomorrow. And I personally am afraid they're going to plant bombs or something because they need to get rid of evidence of their existence here at the campus. And the easiest way to do that is to blow it up.
Well, if we're going to start suggesting things of that nature, I suppose we should.
I did suggest them.
I suppose we should detail why we would say we know this. The one who committed, the other one than Robert Blaine who committed suicide. I don't recall his former surname, and I know him as Rod. He's an athlete. He insisted that the ones in control of them had promised his family would remain unharmed if he cooperated with them. I had been observing them here in the library and observed his reaction of outrage when he found an old newspaper article which detailed the death of a family in Cobb's Corners and the disappearance of the father of the family. He attested to be this man and said that he knew that they had not kept their promise. So he purported to reveal to us some of their purpose. It was very. He didn't tell us very much. He insisted that their task was to comb the archives and remove all evidence of their presence. He couldn't really give us any indication of what this evidence was, and insisted that we avenge him in 2 days.
We're talking about Rod Block.
Well, we're talking about. Jeff, I still have the article, right?
I believe so. I mean, you had it with you.
All right, I show him the article. I say, well, we believe we're talking about this man, or at least he claimed to be this man. I don't know why the actual Rod would do such a thing, and I think his I think his untimely demise rules out that this is some kind of put on.
It doesn't really matter if you believe us or not, but believe us when we say there's something is going to happen, something involving some of the teachers and the students, and it's going to be bad.
Well, this is this professor,
some sort of cleansing,
and this professor is where we all differ, as you might expect. Even a close group who had such strange experiences. I don't know whether to believe everything that this man who presented as though he had been Rod. I don't know whether to believe what he says or not. But I do know what we observed, and what we observed, aside from the numerous examples of the uncanny, which we have not yet detailed, we have observed that the personalities and recollections of our, well, I would say our former classmates are quite other than themselves, and we have observed them thoroughly researching both in this library and in the scientific building matters outside their own usual areas of specialty. And of course, we observed the suicide of whomever had once been Rod. These facts are beyond dispute. So I don't know what to expect, but I believe that he expected something of note to happen in 2 days.
So, wow. I mean, I know the story, and you're throwing me for a loop. So,
I know it sounds like bananas.
I think what Tug said was kind of the best in the end. It was like, it doesn't matter, you know, I mean, I'm just saying this amongst us, but, you know, it doesn't matter if he believes it or not, or how crazy we sound, we believe that something bad's going to happen. And we might be crazy, but we're sincere.
We could think of no one else whose expertise could even touch on these matters.
We believe that something happened to those students on that last night that we were on the field trip. We believed we were being attacked by something, and we saw those students carried away through the air by something that looked like a big giant insect. And the next morning, they were all fine, and we were labeled as the crazy ones.
The one who was Rod claimed that they had either replaced their minds or their brains, but he was rather fuzzy on the distinction. Assuming, well, I think we're all rather fuzzy on that distinction. But, well, we did see the brain and we saw the wires.
You were the only person we could think of to talk to.
And especially because we believe that some of the library property is going to disappear or be damaged, or maybe worse.
Well, maybe they already have begun removing things.
Well, or maybe we're the things that are the problem, and they're going to try to remove us. If we all disappear tomorrow, you'll know why.
But there were mentions in the newspaper of something happening before, and I think if you dug in the records deep enough, you'd find other accounts of things like this happening back through the ages, or at the very least, you'd find that certain records from certain periods of time or certain editions of newspapers had been removed by these people from your library.
That does seem to be what other than Rod was claiming that they intended to do.
Everybody thinks I'm really crazy for saying it, but I think that they can travel through time. Maybe with that door thing that we saw, because they're trying to go through time and make sure nobody knows that they exist. And they've left accidentally evidence along the way, and they're trying to get rid of it. And that's why Rod when Rod looked in that, see, Rod, it sounds so crazy. Rod wasn't Rod. Rod was this other guy. And when he saw in the newspapers that his family had been murdered, he knew that he had been betrayed by these things. And so he rebelled against them, and he told us all of this. And then he shot himself in the head. So if he was crazy, he killed himself so that he could tell us this information. Now, we don't know what happened to Blaine. We know Blaine probably blew his head off. We don't know how he was involved. But he was also involved in it somehow.
Can I ask a GM question? When we followed the guys in the library previously, or how does the library work? If you're in the library, you can take the books out, but you don't need to check them out. We never saw them. We never saw them checking any books out where we could give Professor Armitage the names and he could check the index cards, did they?
Correct. You did not. You never noticed them checking the books out.
Right. So it was always in-house. So there's no proof that they were looking at those books then, unless they asked for them.
And
Okay.
Professor, of course, if we do vanish, then indeed you'll know that. Well, at least something was amiss. But it may also be that we won't vanish, or at least our bodies or appearances won't seem to have vanished. But I can tell you that if 2 or so days from now, if nothing else develops, if none of us recall my mentioning a green lion in this conversation, then that means, well, that we're not ourselves and that they don't have access to our memories.
Green line. Oh, I get what you're doing. You're making a code word.
Exactly. I hope, of course, that we can. I hope, of course, Professor Armitage, that you'll have a suggestion other than waiting to see what may develop.
Does anybody have psychology?
Yeah, sure. Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Does that invite us? Does that? All right.
I mean, I know you all have some sort of base amount, but I mean, does anyone?
No, I don't.
I have it higher than the base amount. Should I roll it?
Mostly. Well, Danny just said no. Jasper, do you have psychology?
Only at base, and I successfully made a psychology roll last time. I'm not going to chance it this time.
Well,
That's not going to happen.
I guess I'd like to try, unless does it have how much higher than the base does it have to be, Jeff?
Well, so here's what I'm thinking. So, sort of throughout this process, you and Tug were doing most of the talking. So it was kind of like, as you're talking, you're not really paying attention, whereas Jasper and Danny are paying attention to Armitage closer. Right. So I was going to give them a bonus die.
Well, if you're going to give me a bonus die, then I'll make the roll.
Okay.
But I've only got it.
Yeah, me too.
So I can't see this.
Me too. Oh, seriously, I got a 0 too.
I got a 29.
And a 91.
Armitage is sitting there going...
And a 26, so I didn't make it.
Can you read what I'm thinking?
I think he's got some sort of nervous tick.
I genuinely got a 0 2 first roll.
Wow. Nice.
Out of 10.
Well, so we'll say that's what, Danny, you kind of came into this and they were sort of doing the talking and you were just like focused, like how's this guy reacting to this crazy story that just unfolded here? So I'll tell you, I'll give it to you in this sense. Number one, he hasn't thrown you out of the office yet. So I guess you could interpret that as he's listening. If nothing else, he's listening.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to give you the alternative side. Rather than trying to explain his emotions, I'm just going to lay a couple things out there. So Armitage was aware of the field trip, and he was aware of the rumors coming back around some of the students, he didn't know who, about some of the students, about the drunken parties, and some of the rumors that have been going around about you guys, but he didn't have a name to put to that. So that's number one. So now you've come in with this literally fantastical story that's all over the map. You know, it's not just about folklore now. It's about, I think you've hit just about every possible, you know, putting
Great.
conspiracy codes in your talk. You're talking about time travel, creatures, aliens, medical devices, warping, fusion, you know, like.
There were ray guns as well.
And ray guns. So there's absolutely a sense of, oh, and the last thing I wanted to point out was, in spite of these crazy stories that you guys are laying out to this guy, one of you is brandishing a stone knife. So
It was made by mole people. Come on. I mean,
you know how sometimes in history there's like those moments that sort of, you know, like a eureka moment, and you're like, somebody should invent this. You know how like in today's modern society, a lot of these big corporations, there's a big phone on the desk, or maybe there's like a secret button under the desk that you push to call security.
Right.
If that existed back in 1931, he would have his hand under the desk trying to push that button as fast as he could to get security up into his office. But there's nothing like that.
But only
Okay,
Danny can tell that?
So I just say, look, Professor, this is, as Tug just said, this sounds ridiculous. We understand this. But let me write down the names of the students that have been coming to the library, if it helps at all, because we believe that they're going to damage property. We're also concerned about what the other group is doing as an experiment. And the professor in charge there. So if I have his permission, I write down all the names of the ones that have followed into the library, and I reaffirm, we were told that something is going to happen tomorrow, and we believe it's going to affect the library, or at least some of the books in the library. And we respect the knowledge of the library and the property of the library, and I kind of take a more practical tack and just kind of briefly talk around that and say, we believe that something unusual, perhaps even supernatural or certainly strange, has happened. We can't understand exactly everything that's going on, but we know it's real, and we believe we have been threatened because of it. So here's a list. Please keep a watch over the library. We want to, if you don't believe us, we want to perhaps speak to the geology department, because we believe that they're planning some kind of experiment.
And don't tell anybody what we've told you. We have absolutely no reason to come here and tell you any of this. We're not trying to impress you or anything.
all I would say, Professor, is that if anything should happen to us in the next few days, please just remember that we came here and told you this.
Can I roll a charm or something, or is just the chat good enough?
Well, the chat was good.
When I die, can I play Henry Armitage?
That's a good shout.
We were also hoping, Professor, or at least I was, that you, as a scholar, a man of science, might have some suggestion as to, as to how we might better proceed to either document or inquire into any of the things that we have reported to you. I mean, even accounting for the possibility that we might be deceived or in some way confused, there must be something here worth investigating, if even part of what we have experienced accords with reality.
All right, let me see if I can do this. So he looks at you, Danny. So he lets you, he gives you the pen and paper to write down the name. He also If you didn't, he asked you to write your names down. He kind of looks at you and he's like, so I'm a little unclear. You've thrown a lot at me, but I just want to be, so I understand you're trying to warn me. I understand that. I understand there's a possible threat to the library and its contents. And I take that seriously. So your warning is not, I'm not dismissing it out of hand. Let me just pause for a second. Could all four of you do an idea roll? I'm just curious. This is a little bit.
I got better than half. I got 21 out of 20. I got 21 out of
21. I've just had the wonderful idea.
Jeff,
cut my toenails with a scythe.
I rolled a one.
Oh, okay.
Out of 65.
All right.
I failed.
Okay. Jasper, I didn't quite hear you. Did you say, did you pass that, or did you?
I said I've got a 91.
91. Something about toenails I heard.
lifting up his toes, and he's using size.
So this is, I guess this is like breaking the fourth wall, but I just want to, so Tug and Jerry, do you happen to recall, I want to be vague at first, do you happen to recall a story about Professor Armitage, about Arkham, about the library that happened roughly 2 years ago? Might have been 4 years, but I think it's
What year is this?
We're currently in 1931, so I think it was like 1929, I think.
1929, 28. Yeah, there was a thing that he went over to Dunwich for a major weird thing. Something about a book, the Neo Necronomicon or something like that.
Okay.
And then Tom knows a lot more about it because it's the.
All right, let me. So
I vaguely recall that, but I tried to dump a lot of my Lovecraft knowledge before
it's
beginning here.
It's lore.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me, since I'm doing this a little bit differently, so now Tom, what further can you tell me about what you remember?
Well, Tom can tell you the whole Dunwich story.
Okay.
Dunwich horror story.
So, well, then specifically, like how was Armitage himself involved in that story?
Well, Armitage managed to get a hold of Wilbur Whately's diary and translate it. And once he had done that, he was able to concoct certain magical formulas so that he could go drive the Dunwich horror back to wherever it came. He confronted it on Witch Hill, blasted Heath, and sent it back to Yog-Sothoth where it came from.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to give a little hint. Jerry, do you know?
Yeah, go ahead.
It involved the library. There was a break-in.
Right. Yeah, Wilbur. I'm talking about the end of the story. So, yeah, there was a break-in. Wilbur broke in trying to get a hold of the Necronomicon.
Yeah, so there's a threat.
Killed by the dog.
Okay. So that's...
When you say he takes the security of the library very seriously, that's what you're referring to.
Right, exactly. That's what I was basically trying to get at, and I wanted to let you guys make that connection too, without.
But what does the role allow us to know in character? I mean, with a 0-1, do I know something about this incident?
No, that's what that's why I said up front. I'm sort of stepping out of the character, so it's kind of like I just wanted you guys as the players to make that connection. That Armitage has a past and has a past issue where, there was a threat to the library and he was directly involved with it. So when you're coming to him now this morning and talking about another threat, that's basically why he's taking you seriously at this point.
Okay, but we're also adding that it's a supernatural threat, which he's also faced.
But he's also, you know, that's why he's not kicked you out of the office.
Okay, yeah. Can we also assume that maybe we heard rumors, maybe they call him Old Man or Old Wizard Armitage because
that's why. Yeah,
back with his magical powers.
Like that's why I was wondering whether or not an extraordinary
because there were
idea roll could allow some kind of in-character connection, especially given that there were other people in the story, you know, than Armitage himself who knew
other teachers
something weird had happened. Yeah.
As you know, as still as a player and all that, was Wilmarth not involved in that as well? Was that one of the professors, or am I getting mixed up?
Wilmarth. That sounds really familiar. Yeah, there were a couple other professors. There was a professor. Was it Wilmarth Price? Maybe. Where's the?
I'm not going to confirm or deny that.
Yeah. Okay.
You're
that's fine.
Outside of my little box that I built.
All right.
But I'm
okay.
not saying. Yeah. So, you know what? Let's say this, Jerry. I won't say. You know, you rolled an 01, so I'll say that you have some sort of previous knowledge about him being called a wizard and all that. But we'll just say that still, you know, it was 2 years ago. It's kind of like a nebulous rumor sort of thing, you know, that just gets passed around and facts get distorted. So in other words, you don't necessarily know the exact story as it was written by Lovecraft, but you've heard these rumors as Jerry Dorn. You've heard the rumors, and you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I might say so. Depending on what he says, I might or might not, you know, express having that knowledge.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Toby, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say that with the folklore and the fact that this is Miskatonic, and they have a metaphysics department, probably everybody knows that Armitage is an expert on these old forbidden books, since he's in charge of this whole section.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we kind of figured, hey, he might have some knowledge. He might know what the hell's going on. That's why I came up here. I thought he'd say, oh, yeah, you know, it talks about in this book that in the hills, that there's things living in the hills or something like that. And he'd start to become concerned that maybe we've seen something. And the mole people.
So I'm going to go back to then. So he was sort of approaching Danny. You know, you give him the list of names. You've written your names down for him too. So he takes that and he slides it into his shirt pocket. He kind of like does a sort of a glance around to look at all of you, but he's sort of directing it to Danny. You know, you've laid a lot on me, and I'm just. Is there something? Are you asking me to do something? Or are you just strictly presenting the information and what happens? Is that?
We don't know what to do.
What do you think we should do, Professor? You are, after all, I mean, we know there's a department of metaphysics, and we know there are many rare volumes and tomes, but, well, you must surely be aware that you're the only member of the faculty who is said to have any practical experience with the occult. Perhaps you can make some recommendations.
So there was a reason I specifically said that he asked Danny. So let me give Danny a chance to respond.
All right.
I think my response is we want you to know because we believe the library may be in danger, but we are also in danger. And if there's anything you could do to help us, we want to. I believe we want to talk to the geology guy as well, because we didn't think he knew. We believed when we talked about it last time that the professor over there was getting duped by the students. So I've not got his. Does anybody remember? Yeah.
Professor Learmouth.
Yeah. So I mentioned the professor, and I say we believe he may be in danger. If there's anything you can do to protect us, or maybe put a good word in with the geology professor, because you've realised that, you know, we've just said everything that we believe we've experienced, even if we don't understand it, over the last few weeks, and we believe people are in danger. So, is there anything you can do to help us either speak to the professor or to protect us from any harm?
So he's thinking, he's sort of running scenarios in his head, and he's like, the only thing I can think of that I can do is that I can speak with security. I can ask them to bump up security around both the library and the geology lab. But now I'm going to put it back on you guys in that if it's as serious as what you're describing, in other words, Tug, I think you just said, I think I heard you mention something about explosives.
I don't know that there are, but I can't think of, if they're trying to get rid of evidence, fire, something like that would be the best way to do it.
I guess what I'm saying is, if you believe this to be a serious threat where people might be hurt and injured and or worse, you might want to go to the cops. But at the same time, I would also advise you, don't tell them what you told me. I don't know, maybe you might have to lie, maybe, but if you feel the responsibility to protect people, there's not much me as an old man can do. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm just an old professor, and I don't have his age in front of me, but you know, he's up there in age. He's an elderly gentleman.
Well, do you ever deal with any of these other teachers? Have you seen any changes in behavior?
To be honest with you, not so much. I mean, I'm pretty much, you know, this is my world, and he points around his office, and there's stacks of books, you know, everywhere, and he's like, you know, this is my world. I don't have a lot of interaction with the other faculty. I mean, I know them, of course, from interactions. I know the other folklore teacher, you know, there's definitely interact. It's not like I don't know them, but
right.
They're not buddies.
You don't like see them in the staff room. You don't smoke a cigarette with them once in a while. Or...
Right.
Jeff, when he says, I'm just an old professor, I'd be inclined to roll psychology. Like, I find it incredible that he thinks that there's, like, nothing he can do, right? Given what I think I know.
He's in his 70s at this point.
I made the roll. Yeah. So, is he being unduly humble or evasive in any way?
That was mostly me trying to avoid the fact that I didn't want to try to look up his age.
I don't mean, I'm not asking if he was evasive about his age. Obviously, Jerry thinks that he's, the professor has had some practical occult experiences. And so when he acts like he wouldn't really know how to handle anything this weird, Jerry is suspicious that maybe he does and doesn't want to say. So that's why I rolled.
I think Jeff doesn't have anything for us.
Okay.
I think I understand what you're asking.
I mean, Jeff already told us out of character the information, right? I'm just wondering if Jerry can pick anything up.
I think it's mostly, I'm not sure if this is answering your question, but I think it's mostly that, you know, he is an elderly gentleman, and you're coming to him basically with a threat to both the building and possibly others.
Okay.
And that's what he's not Superman. He's not going to run down and get his gun. You know what I mean? Like, does that help or?
It does actually. So it's like he's not reacting to the high weirdness. He's reacting to the physical idea of somebody doing violence to the library. Right.
Maybe that's all we can do on this end. Maybe we need to go talk to. Who did you want to talk to? Learmouth?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should go talk to Learmouth.
I think with him, we gauge, when we speak to him, we gauge, does he know anything? Remember, Jasper's got the stone, you know? So we've got physical evidence now. We can actually say to Learmouth and find out. And
hang on, let me interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
Are you discussing this in front of?
No, we're discussing it amongst.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I just said maybe we should go talk to Learmouth.
Yeah.
Because we did mention him before.
I think really, you know, if Armitage is believing at least there's a threat to the library itself, then we've gone a bit of the way. I don't know what else we can do, guys.
But Dr. Armitage, make sure don't tell anybody this, because we don't know who is who.
So he looks a little bit confused. He's like, well, sorry, wait. So if you're telling me that there's a possible threat, don't I have to tell people then?
Well, don't tell them that we told you. It just causes them to ask more questions.
I think
I don't know.
we can trust Professor Armitage's judgment in how to best protect the library.
What Tug's trying to say, Professor, is that they've tried to blacken our names. So if our name's involved, you know, other professors won't believe the story. But just you protect the books as you see fit. And it is definitely amongst the folklore, especially, and you know, I list some of the books that the guys were looking at.
That he wrote down, yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of listed the topics. That was the titles, the kind of titles. There were some of them were quite random, but that was the kind of areas, you know.
Well, I can tell you this. You know, you didn't necessarily ask me this, but I will let you know that Lewis Gibbons, he came to me on several occasions over the last couple of days asking to see the restricted section. And he kind of like does a little like thumb over his shoulder, which if you look in his office, he's kind of got the glass windows. You know how they have the glass windows with that like wire mesh inside?
Right.
So he kind of like glance, so you can see through the mesh windows. And there's another like, it's hard to describe it. There's like a hallway, an L-shaped hallway with a steel door. And he says, you know, Gibbons approached me on several occasions trying to get access to that room, and I denied him. So,
do you know what books
he wanted? Did he say why he wanted the access?
No, and that was mostly why I denied it. He did not give me any specifics, and I just got a bad feeling from it. So I just, you know, it sounds like I may have done the right thing by denying him access there.
Well, you may, if you're able to, you don't know the particular books. I was going to say if you were able to, you may want to remove them from the library for the next 48 hours. But
no way, that's a lot of books.
Yeah, if you don't know what specific books, then that's going to be.
It also means that there is evidence in there of their existence. And that's why he wanted to get in there, to get rid of the evidence. Like I said, that's what their mission is to get rid of the evidence. All right, let's go talk to Learmouth.
Professor, I write down my phone number.
Good idea. Yeah.
I don't live on the campus. I rent a house so many blocks this way and that way. If if you think of anything you'd like us to do or anything you think we should know, well, I'll be returning there every night, and my friends here may be joining me on occasion. But I tend to keep late hours. Please do call me anytime.
Yeah, that's a good idea. He turns to the other three, and he looks at you three, and he says, are you then, can I deduct that you then are all on campus?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I can't get a hold of Jerry on the phone, I could probably send a message to one of you on campus then?
Yeah, scribble down the room numbers next to the names, our names.
So, so he'll kind of like, he's thankful in the sense, well, he says, well, thank you for sharing the information. I mean, I these books mean a lot to me, and I would hate to see anything bad happen to them. So I appreciate your heads up on that. I will just say then too that, other than the timing of this, of when it's supposed to happen, which may or may not change, who knows, but if you should happen to hear of any more details that I can react more, if I can get a clearer picture, if I can put 10 guys on the door out front, or if there's more information, please come back and share it with me.
Yeah. All right, let's go.
Thank you very much.
Then
As we go away,
you hear him pick up the phone, and he's like, boy, you would not believe the discussion I just had.
Oh, great.
That was fun.
I'm more concerned that he'll get on the phone and he'll be saying, everything is going perfectly.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if it came through. I asked the professor if there was a number on which we could reach him.
Oh.
It's probably in the, you just call him on that phone right there.
Yeah,
Well,
office phone, yeah.
I meant professor, that if we were to come upon any information after hours, whether there was a way to reach you.
He just tells you to go through the switchboard and contact the office.
Thank you again, Professor.
As we leave, I say, well, it could have been worse and it could have been better, but...
Yeah, well, we've only just done it. We don't know yet whether we've been expelled or sent to the loony bin. So hold judgment for the time being.
It's not going to make any difference.
But one thing we've learned, boys, is this: they were trying to access some of those restricted books.
That's hardly a surprise, and well, whatever kinds of tomes or grimoires Professor Armitage has behind a steel door, well, I would be surprised if someone with ready access to those kind of materials wants to send us to an asylum after what he's heard.
What should we do with the stone?
Jasper, I think.
It's here in my pocket.
We didn't put it somewhere safe?
Well, maybe we should.
Because that's a piece of evidence.
All I did was that I picked up this stone as well that looks like this stone. Well, it's the same size and shape. It doesn't look like it. But my plan was that in the dark, if he demanded the stone,
oh, that's right.
I was going to throw the one that looked like it at him and go, there you, oops, to try and distract him while I ran away. But it didn't come to that.
Because with the stuff with the geology department, the stone is also a piece of evidence.
Why not put it in a bank vault? Assuming, of course, that we're not followed to the bank.
Let's go talk to the geology.
Yeah, as long as the students aren't there, I think this is our best bet to talk to Learmouth. And then if this doesn't work very well, then we've also got another folklore professor we could speak to.
Yeah, Professor Harold. Is that it? Roger Harold. Oh, he's anthropology. I thought he was the other folklore teacher. Is it folklore or is it anthropology, Jeff?
Trying trying to see if
I
I
think,
have.
I think there was 2, wasn't there?
Those are the 2 names that I got, Learmouth and Harold.
I think I have that right.
No, wait a moment.
There's a third name too.
Oh. John Jeffrey, Daphne
Hello.
Devine. Boyd Patterson? No, he died.
That's just a thought, if depending on how this goes.
Oh, here we go. Armitage is 73 years old.
Okay, there you go.
So he is.
But it was in his 70s.
Of what use do you think it's going to be to speak to Professor Learmouth? What do we intend to tell him?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like the library situation. We don't really know. We don't know how he's going to take it. The fact that the students have either ulterior motives or...
Danny, there is one significant difference. Professor Learmouth is a man of more conventional science. Professor Armitage has who knows what volumes of...
Well, for all we know,
knows
Learmouth
what.
is involved.
Yeah, so we don't mention aliens or mole men or brains being exchanged. We talk about, we ask them about the experiments that they're doing, and we believe that they're up to something, and whatever, they've got their own agenda.
For what possible reason would he believe an accusation like that? We're bringing him nothing other than
A stone.
baseless suspicion.
We've got a stone with this precious material.
You definitely could tell him that the whole meteorite thing is nonsense, because we didn't find that stone anywhere near the meteorite hole.
That's evidence, yeah.
But Jerry's got a good point too, and the point is, maybe all we need to do is stop these people from doing what they're doing. We can't tell anybody because we look like insane idiots. What teacher would do anything?
We certainly shouldn't, as Tug says, draw that kind of attention to ourselves. And for that matter, I think going to the authorities is out of the question.
Yeah,
I think we should return. I think we should return to our previous intention to interview one of them rather aggressively. Don't they have a?
Look, we nearly get killed in the graveyard.
I still think. I think I was as close as anyone, and I'm still willing to. I suppose considering that they have whatever weapons they have, their physical size and strength is less an issue, and yet one of them with low enough body weight, perhaps we could get access to ether. All it requires.
You realize, though, if we take one by force, then there's a good chance they're all going to come after us.
If they know about it.
They already know about us. They know about us from last night.
I didn't say if they know about us. I said if they know that we've taken one. All we have to do is subdue one of them alone when the others don't notice.
Jasper, what do you think?
It's our best chance for learning anything more about this.
I think we've got the stone, and the stone gives us physical proof that there is something.
Physical
happening.
Proof of what? That something in Cobb's Corners at some time in history made a flint knife?
No,
not the flint knife.
Oh, the stone.
That they're lying to the professor.
How exactly does that prove that they're lying? All it proves is that at some distant time in history,
it proves they're trying to convince him that it was a meteorite. That it wasn't a meteorite.
It wasn't found at a meteor site. It was.
How do we know that more of the stone wasn't found at the meteor site? How do we know that the stone wasn't taken to the burial mounds because the ancient indigenous peoples thought it was a sacred gift from the gods? This is and even if you're correct, why wouldn't a geology professor immediately realize that people may have carried pieces of a meteorite from one place to another?
The whole point of the trip was for the chemical company to find those pieces They want to find this element that's so strong. And
that's our supposition. And Tug, I think you're correct, by the way. I'm not arguing against you. I'm suggesting that the professor will much prefer to believe that there's a conventional explanation other than a conspiracy of university students. To what exactly? Oh, well, that's part of the problem, isn't it?
If the rock was a meteorite, then it's of no interest whatsoever to the chemical company because it's a fluke, it's an oddity. But if there's a mineral there, and we think there is because we didn't find that near any meteorite.
Who knows?
Who knows anything?
Well,
we're just trying to figure things out.
But who knows what the chemical company's real agenda might have been?
Their agenda is the same agenda as all companies: money.
Oh, well, I suppose that depends on whether or not the brains of their board of directors have been replaced yet.
It's still money.
I think you have me there, Doug.
Aliens on other planets in a billion years are still just going to be concerned with how to make money, how to get things that they want.
Words of wisdom from Tug.
Well, then, Tug, I think we do know at least one thing then. And, well, again, that inclines me to the more practical solution. We may know more if we can extract more information from one of them. At least maybe we could find out what's supposed to happen in 2 days. Or, as you say, at least we could find ourselves blasted to bits with rays. But what else have
we got to stop them from doing anything.
How do you propose to do that?
Well, I think that Rod had the right idea. We have to kill him. He said
shoot his own brains out.
And you were reluctant a few moments ago to abduct one of them, and now you're proposing mass murder?
Abducting one of them and questioning him is only just going to delay us.
I think the other reason...
Mass murder is exactly what they're proposing.
The other reason
Jasper, what are you talking about? They haven't said... whoever Rod really was didn't say they were going to blow anything or anyone up. He said they simply...
You seem more interested in their well-being than ours.
I'm more interested in finding out what is really going on, at risk to our well-being.
Well, was that not the point in seeing the geology professor, to try and not just warn him or suggest to him that he wasn't getting the right information, but perhaps we could have found out something?
Well,
was that not what we're trying to do?
Well, it could be. What do you think he might know that's of any use? Maybe something more about their experiments?
I don't know. Remember, one of you found a note, and that's how we found out about the petroleum company. You know, I don't know.
Let's show the professor that they're lying to him, and maybe he already suspects it because he's not an idiot.
And the bottom line is, if he doesn't believe us or he thinks we're just pulling a prank, it's irrelevant because they know that we know anyway, so it doesn't change anything. But what it might reveal is, does he know, or is he one of them, you know? Or is he just a professor going about his business, making money, you know, bringing money in?
Well, Danny, I'm inclined to agree. If you think we can learn anything from him, that's going to be easier than any other way of gaining more information. Do you think you know how to present the matter?
Yeah, I think we're just straightforward about it, and we let them know that we know that there was minerals found before, and that the minerals that we know of didn't come from any meteor crater. And is he getting the right information?
Well, lead on.
What do you think, guys? Does that make sense? You know, we're not going with stories about monsters or anything.
I'm persuaded, and I'm in agreement that we should mention nothing uncanny.
Okay.
Jasper, are you okay presenting the stone? If I don't think we do it straight away, but we just, you know, ask him about what he understands.
If we need to.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And if we get any suspicions he is one of them, You've got your flint knife. I've got my pistol.
I've got my sock full of quarters.
And your sock full of
I
quarters.
could really do with a prop. But I went and cashed all my change in at the supermarket the other day. Damn it.
I was going to say, have you not got a sock?
I've got a sock. Obviously, I'm not sitting here barefooted, for goodness sake. What kind of man do you think I am?
You could fill it with dice.
Oh,
Okay, shall we go? Shall we give it a go, guys? Shall we give it a go and see what happens?
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay.
So,
All right. Yeah, okay.
go ahead, Jeff.
So you're headed to the professor's, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Is there any sign of the students while we go?
All right. Quit reading my thoughts.
It was a long pause.
It was a very long pause. I was not very subtle about that. I'm going to ask you to do a spot hidden.
Oh dear.
You Danny or you everybody?
Let Danny do it first since he just mentioned it.
It's nice clouds today.
Apparently, I'm walking next to Danny saying, what are you looking at? What are you looking at?
Go ahead, Jasper and Jerry.
Yeah, I got a.
We're all going to die, everybody.
I think
got
it's a 90. It could well be a 900. It makes no difference. I think.
hard success, Jeff.
Hard success. Wow. Okay. Let me just remind you too. I'm not trying to suggest one or another. I'm just reminding you. You know, we played like 2 weeks ago, but in game time, it was only just last night that you guys were very, very worried about those other students and them attacking you. And
Yeah.
Jerry's feeling really paranoid, as you might have detected when I started enumerating the armaments in the car.
Right. So let's see.
Well, and in fact, when you say walking over, how far is the science building? Would we not be able to drive from the library to the science building, or are they across from each other?
Yeah, across the quad. I guess.
So it is just across the quad.
Yep.
Okay. And yet I still, well, I didn't think of it at the time, so. And I did at least make a check to notice something. Right?
Yeah. Let's say you're going to notice two things. The first thing you notice, let me just open the map real quick just to refresh my memory. So the fountain was sort of in the middle of the quad. You're kind of walking from the science building, which is like a city block. You know, it's not that huge. You know, easy walking distance.
Right.
You're walking from the science building over to the library. The library is on the east side. Science hall is on the west side. So you're basically you're walking the path that they followed every day, right? They met at the fountain. The group split, so half the group went to the library, half the group. So you're basically retracing those steps. There's a couple other buildings over on the same side of the block as the science building. There's another science annex, smaller building, and there's a big memorial hall that's rather large. And there's like walkways, right? You know, it's little winding walkways around the campus. They don't, you know, it's not just a straight line, it's winding, you know, trees and stuff like that. So I'm going to say that you notice Jason Trent, who is sort of, he's not really near you. He's kind of like at one of those other buildings that I mentioned, like the large hall building. And there's a...
Is Jason Trent the one with the ray gun?
No, that was Laszlo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. It was Terrence. Yeah.
Yeah, Terrence Laszlo.
Okay. Sorry. So.
Yeah, I don't believe Jason Trent has made much of an appearance in this section. Like, he was with you, right? But he hasn't really been active in this. So you kind of see him standing. He's like underneath of a tree, and he's just sort of leaning up against the tree, basically just minding his own business. Because you got a hard, I'm going to say that on the campus, there's a park bench, for people to just sit down and watch like the nice view of the campus. There's a man in a suit, and he seems to be watching you.
In a suit.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't recognize him other than the fact that he's in a suit.
And Jeff, is there also a parking lot next to the science building?
Sure. We'll say there's a couple, very small.
Gentlemen, I think maybe I would prefer not to have the car across the quad from our destination. Why don't we drive over?
Well, I'm not going to walk all the way back.
I just turn around. I just turn around and start heading back for the car.
Okay. All right, I understand.
I'm expecting them to follow me. If they don't, then I'm not going to be looking back, because the thing to do, I would think, when people are watching you is not to like tell everybody else, "Hey, look over there, that guy's watching us." I probably try, in fact, to mime like I forgot something. In fact, I even say, "Damn, I forgot my notes," and a bit louder than what I said before. And try to look disgusted and annoyed. I realize, though, both in and out of character, that's a bit of an afterthought, so I don't know if that requires some type of penalty. But Jerry does realize, he should act like this is no coincidence. And
can I make a listen roll? See if I can hear anyone say, "Oh no, he's made us."
You're ready.
Can I make a spot hidden to see if I see Jasper noticing that?
Can I make a roll to see if I notice Danny noticing Jerry and Jasper doing this?
Okay.
We're just falling down the strange GM.
Oh, all right.
I'm like, Tug, do you see that cloud? What's up with him going away? Look at that. Look at those clouds up there.
Can we just say that we do everything necessary to get to the science building and talk to the teacher?
Yeah, I'm going to say, Tug, Jasper, and Danny, you don't really think much of it, so you continue walking on to the science, and Jerry, you go get your car.
And you meet us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just say there's a little bit of a delay for you to show up. Right. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now. So in my brain, I keep mixing up the professor names. So if I say the wrong name, I hope you'll correct me. You're going to see Learmouth. Learmonth. Because that's what keeps messing me up. Learmonth. M-O-N-T, month. M-O-N-T-H.
Oh.
So you find his office. So he's not in the lab section. He's actually in his office this time. And you, I assume, knock on the door, and yes, come in. Who is it? Come in.
And we all file in quietly.
And he recognizes you, Danny, right? Because you.
Yeah. Yeah, I took one of his classes before.
Jasper and Tug, he has not met yet. Is that correct?
Well, I'm a geology student.
Oh, no, hang on. Did I, I can't remember whether I went to see him as Jasper or as Rod.
I can tell you it was not Rod.
It was, wasn't it? I was no. Jasper went there. I hid in a cupboard.
Right.
Yeah.
Didn't I?
Right.
In his
Yeah.
room.
Yeah, but you
Right,
didn't
so-
let him know you were there.
That's
Right.
right.
Tug?
Yes, I never met him. That's quite true. Yes.
Okay, that's what I was trying
Yeah,
to.
that's right. I hid in his room, but I didn't actually meet him.
But
And
I
the same with you, Tug, because I remember at the very beginning, didn't two of you wait outside, or was it just Jerry? I know Jerry talked.
I definitely hid in the room, but I'm also a geology student, so
Oh, you know him as well
he's a
then.
geology professor. I wouldn't know him.
Okay.
Maybe I took him last semester.
Okay, so let me. I'm not clear then.
And yeah, I remember I met him. I talked to him. I've never taken any of his classes.
The time that you talked to him, just a couple days ago or whatever it was. The time that you talked to him, did you talk to him alone or who? I can't remember. Like Danny
Jasper
put
was
the fire
hiding.
on.
Right, I was alone. Jasper was hiding in the closet.
I was under the desk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jasper and Tug were hiding.
And all right, so basically, Jerry, you're the only one that talked to him so far. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Danny, you've had him in classes, and Tug, you've had him in classes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, yes, he welcomes you in. He looks up. He recognizes both Danny and Tug. What
You
can I do?
remember me, Doc? It was last semester.
Yeah, the big guy. I remember you. Your grades. Were you?
You remember my grades? You remember that I struggled to B minus?
I think that's what I am currently remembering.
B minus. I spent all night writing that paper for you.
Oh,
I give him a B minus.
I look over at Danny and Jerry and Jasper, and I go, he's cool.
Good morning, Professor.
First of all, Professor, I apologise for calling you Learmouth for the whole of last year.
It happens all the time. I feel like I should be called the amount.
Shall I just go for this and you guys can chip in? Or Tug, do you want to go for it?
No, I put my foot in my mouth too much.
Okay. Professor, I wonder if we can ask you about it's relating to the field trip we had and some of the research that's going on. We understand that some of our fellow students have been coming to do some experiments up here, or some research up here, and we're not sure if the information that you're getting of them is correct, regarding some of the minerals that were found at Cobb's Corner.
He does sort of a Spock thing where he raises one eyebrow. Really? Interesting.
Yes, really.
He kind of like looks around. Danny looks at you because you're talking to him. He's like, "Are you feeling okay? You look a little worn out and tired. Do you want to sit down or?"
No, perfectly fine.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, all right. So, back to what you're saying. You think you're being misled? You think I'm being misled?
Some of the students, we were at Cobb's Corner, as you know, part geology degree, and Tug's taken geology as well.
Mm-hmm.
We know that, or we've heard that there's some research into some of the minerals and that's what we understand the students that have been up at the lab the last few days have been doing. And we just wanted you to know that there has been more minerals found. We know at Cobb's Corner this last visit, but not at any meteor site at all, but actually at a archaeological. Am I right in saying, guys, it was the archaeological dig?
Well, yes, it was.
Where was it? Was it in the river?
It was nearby a mound that resembled very much the style of the classic Midwestern mounds.
No, we went over this. We went over this last time.
Yeah, I thought there was. Where was it?
It was near the river.
It was near the river, yeah. So I relay that to the guy. And I'm really looking for a response. I mean, if I do look ill, that's fine, or peaky or whatever it is but I'm kind of a bit wondering what he's up to, asking me if I want to sit down and all the rest of it. So I keep it as simple and as kind of clinical as possible.
Thunder.
We think that some of the students, and you guys can all tell that Tug is very hard to come up with a really cool.
I'm like, no moment. No,
no. He's trying very desperately to keep the mole men out of this. He says, we know that the chemical company, that they wanted us to find something up there. And since it's the second or third expedition, they knew there was something that they wanted us to find. And other companies might be rivals who also want to make a ton of money. And we think some of your students have been influenced into lying to you. We think they're trying to convince you that this mineral, this harder than diamond mineral, is coming from a meteorite. And we found evidence that it's not.
Danny's jaw drops a little bit, not because there's any smoke coming out, but because he's amazed at how crafty Tug's just been there.
And that he didn't say moment.
Yeah.
So before I answer, I just want to point out, you're skating on thin ice, Tug, as far as
my character.
Well, no, not necessarily. What I mean is, some of the information you might be sharing with him is some of the information that you got when you looked at the letter, right? So, like, you might be revealing the fact that you've been snooping around his office.
Oh, okay.
Well,
then
Jeff,
I'm too dumb to realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Right.
So, Jeff, does that mean that that it's perfectly reasonable that we would realize that?
Probably.
Yeah.
But then
so I say, right. So I say, Professor, we don't think it's we don't think it would be all of them, but occasionally, we've overheard some of them discussing some of these matters, and it seems that maybe some are trying to persuade the others to go along with this deception. Again, the motive is unclear, but I think Tug is onto something there. You know how financial motives can corrupt honest research. I wouldn't think it would be difficult to induce a student, particularly a student not of means, to accord with something of that nature. And if I realize that I'm now engaging in outright deception, I will roll charm if that is desirable.
So the professor's looking around at you standing in his office, and he's like, you're, unless I'm misunderstanding you, it sounds like you're leveling a pretty heavy accusation. Is that, am I understanding you correctly? Are you saying?
Well, the emphasis is on the inconsistency in a report. We were there at Cobb's Corners, and we know where at least one of the sample of the mineral was found. As to the rest, of course, maybe we were misinterpreting what we heard, but certainly there was some disputation going on about the account that was to be given you. But that's all I know myself. But I know where that other sample was found, as Tug and Jasper.
You're talking about another sample. I'm not sure I'm following.
Well, if there's only one sample, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that there may have been more than one sample. If there was only one sample, then yes, Professor, then you have been lied to. Perhaps there were other samples, but we know very well about the sample found. I believe Jasper would know exactly where it was found. And it certainly was in no crater.
I think Rod found it and then gave it to me, didn't he?
Yeah.
Not entirely certain absolutely where it was found.
So the professor he's got a little bit of a confused look on his face. So he's like, so you're suggesting there's more than one sample that's been found. Am I following this? I'm sorry, I'm a little bit lost.
Yes.
Oh,
it's certainly possible.
You have a sample of the mineral, correct?
Yes. I have a sample. I actually have two samples. I have one sample from the previous field trip, the very first field trip out there. Or wait, no, I might be. Well, regardless, I think that I have one sample that was given to me from, I can't remember if I got it from the Federation Oil Company. Anyway, I have that sample, and then I have the second sample, which was found by the students in the meteor, in the crater, and they brought back a photograph of where that was found and dug up.
Where was the first sample from?
Is that where I'm getting confused then? Is there a third sample that you're telling me about?
What students told you that that's where they found the sample?
The same three that have been basically pestering me every single day and morning.
Pestering you for what?
Well, they're just here every day and all day long. They're just nagging me. I'm getting tired. I mean, thank goodness they're not here now. I'm about tired of it.
Well, I think we can confirm, yes, there was another sample found in this last trip. We've seen it.
There is another sample.
We've seen it.
All
we
right.
know where it is.
But they are desperate to get their hands on it, and we believe that they would then claim that it was from a meteor, but it wasn't.
Okay. So this is interesting.
And what we think is that it's somebody trying to pull the wool over your eyes so that the chemical company doesn't think that it's a naturally occurring mineral there.
Okay, so now we're back to you're insinuating that they're trying to intentionally mislead me.
Yes.
And
yeah, we believe so.
do you have anything that can back that up, or is that just...
So you're saying, Professor, that none of them have claimed to you that a sample was found at all on this last trip? Is that right?
Other than the one that was found in the meteor, which they brought back a photograph of that crater.
Well, we were all there in Cobb's Corners, and nothing was found in any meteor crater.
And I saw that picture.
In fact,
the meteor crater.
There was no meteor.
That doesn't.
There was no such meteor crater, at least not on this expedition. So already there is a considerable inconsistency. Now, it might be said that as a folklorist, I wasn't involved in the geological expeditions, but Tug was on a number of them, and certainly Jasper and Danny. And, well, this crater was not to be seen.
He's very troubled looking right now because he's not sure what he's supposed to do. It's basically come down to hearsay at this point. And he's actually already submitted paperwork, so now he's worried about his own, what has he just done? Has he just reported false information to the people that are paying for this whole thing?
Professor, we don't know why they want to mislead you. but all we know is that they've been behaving very strangely. And since we've come back from that trip, extremely strangely.
And they've been blackmailed.
Do you know what kind of research they've been doing? You said that they've been here every day, and if they were pestering you, they must have wanted some assistance. Maybe that has something to do with, whatever their motive. Maybe some other company is attempting to endorse
Danny,
other research that they could use against their rivals.
Danny glances at Jasper, kind of like a knowing look, as if, do you want to show him, or are we just going to leave it?
That's a look, not a statement out loud.
Yeah, just a kind of look. Would like? I mean, to me, I don't know about you guys, but to me, Danny's thinking. He is a scientist. He's not had a brain swap. He sounds like, he's not behaving in a sinister fashion.
Before you guys decide, maybe, Jeff, does he answer my question or does he just ignore me? Because it seemed like they were discussing. I asked him if he knew what the other students were researching, if they were pestering him like all the time. Did they want something? Did they want assistance? Like, what are they?
Oh yes,
doing in here all the time?
So they were basically there as a joint effort with him researching the rock sample. Does that make sense?
Right.
Well, what more do they want to discover about it? I mean, obviously it's a specimen of some fascinating character. Even a folklorist like myself knows that. But it sounds like from what you've said that their interest exceeded your own, or at least their diligence became annoying. What has absorbed their attention so much?
Yeah, it's just the fact that this is an absolutely strange and mysterious. Not mysterious. That might not be the right word, but it's brand new. Nothing like this rock has ever been found before, has ever been seen before by the average person, and even by a learned person such as myself. That's why we're here now studying it. So for the students to realize that this could be a once-in-a-lifetime chance to help and to assist in the study of this, rare element or mineral or whatever it is, that's their enthusiasm and that's their motivation. But now I'm not so sure, because now you're casting aspersions on their motivations, and I don't necessarily know. I don't necessarily have any. I don't know why you would do that. I'm trying to understand. I've been with them every single day for the last 3 or 4 days, and they've been helping me. They've been nice to me. There's been nothing unusual other than the fact that they're just here all the time. And that's just what I meant by, I was kind of getting tired of seeing them all the time, every day. So what is your motivation? Let me do that. Let me ask you that. Why are you coming here to me now telling me all this? Why didn't you report this when you first got back from the field trip?
Well, we hadn't overheard anything to, indicate outright deception. It wasn't as though they were all discussing this on the field trip.
We didn't really have any reason to. We didn't know what was going on, but now, since we came back from the trip, we've all been kind of blacklisted. And we can't figure out why our friends are acting like we're strangers all of a sudden.
At times they've even been quite hostile and threatening towards us. And I think, and I'm going to sort of put my hand in my pocket and nervously glance at the others, I think it might have something to do with this. And I'm going to show him the stuff.
Mic drop. So his
So
eyes
take
wide.
it out and then just check it to make sure it's not the old stone.
The fake one?
Oh, it's that one. Yeah, right. Oh, not that one, though. That's a little flint knife that a mole monster made. We'll talk about that later.
Now, I remember when you talked about meteorites before. Most of them are iron. And there have been unusual things found in meteorites before. And if this is a meteorite and it fell to Earth and it contains this harder than diamond substance, it's of no value. It's a curiosity. But if this is not a meteorite, if there is a large vein of this substance up in Cobb's Corner, then it's going to be millions and millions of dollars worth of stuff. And I'm guessing, but isn't that why the mineral company or the oil company sent you back there in the first place, or sent us up there? They want that, like I said to everybody earlier, all they're interested in is making a ton of money. And what if a rival company got a hold of those other students and said, convince them that it's a meteorite?
Danny does another double take and looks at Tug.
We
Guy's
can't
amazing.
prove any of this, but this was not found anywhere near a meteorite crater. It was found near the river. Not very deep.
Okay. I mean, you certainly have his attention. He's wide-eyed looking at it sitting on his desk. Wow.
Have those other students had access to the sample? Did you have
Yes.
samples?
Yeah.
Do you still have the samples? When was the last time you looked at them?
I believe so. And he reaches down to his desk and he opens up the drawer and he says, yeah. And he takes out the other 2 samples and he puts them on the desk and they match the one that you were looking at. Relatively the same size.
Okay, so they didn't steal the samples. When I look at the others.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, gentlemen. I mean, I'm...
We have reason to believe that something's going to happen tomorrow, and we don't know what it is. But it might be something that involves this. We just want to give you a heads up.
Something...
We don't know. We don't have all the answers. We don't have all the pieces. But something is up.
So he kind of looks to you, Jasper, and he's like, may I have this? And I'll just tell you, in case I didn't relay it well enough in the tone of voice, it's not really a question, but he's also pausing in order to give you a chance to, like, say no.
Well, sir, that's the only proof we have for our story. So I'm afraid, no, you may not.
But we'll keep it safe.
You see,
Well,
if you're not willing to believe us, we need to find someone who will. And they're not going to believe us unless we have proof, and that is our proof. And I'm sorry if that puts you in an invidious position, but
I also think it might be dangerous.
something must be done about this.
Not because we don't trust you. We obviously take your classes, but we don't trust the students.
you did find this on the school trip, correct?
Yep. Rod did. Some of us were there. I was there. Or no, I wasn't.
Professor, did Rod tell you himself he found it in the crater?
Well, Can I just confirm? I didn't find this on the school trip. I was given it by Rod, who said that he found it on the school trip.
Okay, this is rather confusing. All I can tell you is that I believe since you found it on the school trip, technically that's school property. I mean, that's the whole reason.
I think you'd have a very hard time of proving that in a court of law, sir.
Well, I think that's the whole reason you went there, is to find, you were tasked, the geology students anyway, were tasked with finding.
I'm a folklore student, sir.
We weren't given any clear direction.
That's true. It was rather peculiar, actually. Maybe less so for folklorists. But as I recall, even the geology students were simply looking for whatever might be of interest, which did seem a rather expansive mandate.
I'm going to snatch the stone back. Well, I'm going to try and snatch the stone back from him.
Snatch the pebble from my hand.
In what might possibly be a big mistake.
How about we offer to bring it back in 48 hours after this supposed incident's going to happen?
That'd be a good compromise, yes.
Before
I embarrass myself.
I just suggest that to the professor. Say, look, we are concerned that something may happen involving the students in the next 24 hours. How about we bring it back in 2 days for your care?
He gets a pad of paper out and he looks at you each and he says, "What are your names again?"
We give them the names of the other students.
No, two of us.
And he writes down Danny, Tug. He looks at you, Jasper. So just to be clear, I'll give you a chance to redo this, Jasper. Are you snatching it, or are you?
I'm thinking about snatching it.
He was thinking about snatching it. I saw the look on his face, and then I offered to do the deal.
Compromise. Okay. So
And the GM just gave you a second chance.
If he's asking me for my name, I'm going to tell him my name is Arthur Two Sheds Jackson.
All right. Hold on. Let me write that down. Arthur. What? Two shades?
Arthur Two Sheds Jackson.
And my name's Anita Tinkle.
He knows who you are. Jerry, he looks at you for your name.
Very Dawn.
Oh dear.
Okay, I'm going to give you here's your moment. Snatch it away or you're going to lose it.
Okay. Dexterity roll.
All right. He starts to reach for it.
What? No. That's bad.
Oh, 16 out of 80. like a cobra striking.
What did the professor roll, GM? Did he roll a good roll?
I think he's stunned. He's not going.
Oh, I didn't mean to hit him that hard.
Yeah. He's a little shocked and stunned. And he just says, right, okay. So I'll get back to you, gentlemen. I'm going to go have a talk with the dean about the situation, and we'll figure it out from there.
Uh-oh.
Good day, gentlemen.
Good day, Professor.
I think we're about to get...
we're expelled.
Down.
Well then, Jasper. If as we're walking out, I'm like, well then, Jasper. Arthur.
Two sheds.
On the way out, it says, we'll just go to some other chemical company and tell them that it's not a meteorite.
Should how about
actually, Tug, that's exactly what I was going to suggest. Either that, or we get in touch with our Federated Oil ourselves.
Oh, Okay, so if we've left, I've got an idea. I just suddenly say, wait a second. If what these alien doppelgangers are trying to do is remove evidence of their existence, why don't we create evidence of their existence? Why don't we go to the newspaper and put an article in it about aliens invading the schools? I know it's ridiculous.
We could
aliens will be terrified.
Name and get an article in the paper saying that not only does this person locally claim that aliens have begun to infiltrate our university, but that the person in question has proof and will unveil it at the same time that we think they're going to do what they're going to do in the science building, which could provide a distraction or at least delay them.
How about on the same newspaper on the front page, 4 students arrested for stealing university property?
And, what newspaper would print anything like this?
If you give money, they'll print anything. Here's the point. So the point is
1930. We just need to find the yellow press.
I'm just saying the thing is if there is suddenly the newspapers are flooded with this information and their mission is to get rid of the evidence, then at that point there's no point in them doing anything because they failed in their mission. The information is now in the newspapers, in print. Hundreds of people have it, even if nobody believes it.
What failing that, even if the newspapers won't do it, perhaps we could just...
Did you see any of them reading works of fiction in the library?
Yes.
Well, that may be the answer.
The lady falls backwards.
How quickly do you suppose we can have something fictional printed?
Not by tomorrow. Take
I
a
suppose
month.
not.
To write a book.
The typesetting would take a month.
I've got a copy of His Monkey Wife by John Collier that I've just...
What about something serialized in a paper? Are there any daily papers that have short stories, things like that?
What if we tell them that we've told people?
What if we printed out leaflets or pamphlets and just flyered the whole town with them everywhere? We could even name some of the people. Do it anonymously in the middle of the night, in the dead of night, and just paste up things.
I mean, we could get in trouble for it.
But their names are...
But all I'm talking about is creating a monstrous distraction that will stop them from doing.
There is one thing that even a standard newspaper might be willing to print. Surely there's going to be some kind of an inquiry into the death of a Miskatonic University student, Rod. I don't recall his surname.
2 of them.
Indeed. So why not find some way of tying that to some fabulous accusations? They may be printed simply for their sensational value or their bizarreness, even if no one believes them.
The problem is that we become immediately implicated.
Well, yes.
What a sticky wicket.
I think we hide in the professor's cupboard with all the weapons that we've got, and when the guy's shot, we just shoot everybody.
I
Gosh,
think we should all switch.
We picked up that ray gun when we had the chance.
We should just switch to Boston U. Let's go to Harvard.
Well, I'm happy to call it there, unless you guys want to have a think of, I don't know what's better, to have time to think about it, what your next step's going to be, or do you want to talk it out now? Or
I wanted to go to Berkeley, but my mother wouldn't let me. She said there were too many poets there. Damn it, I wish I had now.
All those poets will be living in a park across the street on Temple in a few years. In a park.
Maybe we should go back to the library and ask Armitage if we can hide in the library for the next 48 hours. And we'll keep an eye on his books.
Nobody here believes. I told you our only choice is to kill them all.
I think you might be right.
Make it look like an accident.
Just for the heck of it, everybody do an idea roll. I'm just going to mention something. This is probably obvious, but I just want to.
I got a 42 out of 45.
Yeah, I made it by 4.
67 out of 70. Just made it. Just.
Okay, so it's probably obvious, but I just want to bring attention to it. So it was only just last night that Rod, right? Last night?
Yeah.
Yeah, just last night that Rod shot himself in the cemetery. So it's certain, the cops were called, right? You remember?
Sure.
There was gunfire, multiple shots fired. So you can make the pretty good logical assumption that they came out and they poked around and they found a dead body. So between that and the apparent suicide from Blaine only a few days earlier, we now have 2 student deaths very close to one another. And I would say chances are good that some detective somewhere in Arkham is saying, something's fishy about this.
Well,
So if we were to phone in with an anonymous tip-off.
Well, realize too that we have partially implicated our knowledge because we told Armitage that Rod was dead.
Why don't we just tell... I know I wanted nothing to do with the authorities, and really I still don't, but...
And it hasn't come
Well,
out in the
actually,
paper.
no, not the authorities. No, not the authorities. Why don't we... well, we could wait till it comes out in the papers, but that might be too long.
It'll
Why
probably
not
be in
tell?
the papers this afternoon.
Well, maybe.
Well, when there's something strange.
Wait. Has Blaine's death has already come out in the papers, hasn't it?
I don't know if it did or not. But
Yes.
it
Yeah,
did.
you remember
So-
saying something about, a terrible suicide.
Maybe we do it this way. Someone other than me, considering that he used my rifle, someone other than me, go to a detective, tell them everything Rod told you, everything. Well, I guess let's just call him Rod. Everything Rod told you, and that he also told you he was going to kill himself. Or maybe someone else, or maybe someone would like to go with me, can go to some journalists, tell them
No, you know what we
a
need
similar
to do?
story, tell them everything Rod told us, and also he said that Blaine was involved, and that's why he killed himself. Maybe something will make it into a paper somewhere.
Well, we don't know any of that is true.
What difference does it make if any of it's true?
What point is there in lying to these people?
I thought the intention was to see if we could get some of this information into a record somewhere.
But if we're
Either in
making
print.
it up, then there's nothing for them to go after and try and expunge.
No, the true part would be everything that Rod told us. If any of that makes it into a record somewhere, they'll want to remove it. Wasn't that your idea? Wasn't that your intention?
My intention was to flood the information out there so that they would have failed in their mission. They couldn't possibly remove all the information.
Keeping it secret.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I agree
thinking,
that would be an excellent plan, but we don't have time.
I'm thinking if there's a
Only there was
detective,
some kind of worldwide.
What about this detective, Tug?
I was going to say, one of us needs to dress up in disguise so that the detective doesn't know who we are. We contact the detective as an informant, knowing something, and we implicate as that all of those students belong to a club, and that we know that they murdered. We could tell them that they murdered both Blaine and Rod and made it look like suicides.
How would we know about Rod's murder yet?
Because we know. We're an informant. We would know, and he would then know that we know. But
have you ever worn a disguise?
what's there to wear? I could wear my grandma's old trench coat, and it's just so that he doesn't know who we are, or one of us is.
If we told them it had something to do with the marijuana or white slavery or something, they'd jump on that.
You could tell them it has something to do with that chemical company and the minerals. That way, when they start looking into it all, they start finding bits of the same evidence that we found. In any case, they'll get all those students together and won't let them do whatever they're going to do.
I really like the idea. I like the idea of your flyers. You just tell everybody there's aliens swapping brains.
We could call all of our friends on the phone and say, "Did you hear about the aliens?"
At least Armitage kind of believed us. Almost.
You know, at the very least, if we did put up flyers everywhere, at the very least, they'd have to go around and pull them down.
It's like feathers in a feather pillow. You open it up like this, and they go everywhere, and there's no way to stop them once that happens.
I think you all are onto something. If they're willing to take note of a work of fiction with the wrong ideas, they are highly sensitive to any of this account.
Of course, that means
in any form.
Oh, I just thought of something horrible, and I sort of look around, and I'm like, if they're time travelers,
they could have already killed us.
They may have. They might be around the corner about to kill us because they got to stop us from doing what we're about to do.
And our bodies are in 2 sheds.
Da da da.
And now it all makes sense.
And on that bombshell,
I think we have to leave it there. Then.
All right.
If you want to keep complicating it that way, Tug, for all we know, we're brains in jars ourselves somewhere. Let's not think about that.
What if we're little dead peaches in jars somewhere? All right.
What if we're just characters?
Jerry compulsively checks his pocket.
What if we're characters in a Call of Cthulhu RPG? Yeah.
Some kind of hideous game.
Our players included Mick Swan, George C., Ken Trench, and myself, with Jeff Wilkins as the keeper of the secrets. We're currently producing up to 4 shows a week with music and sound effects added in post-production in order to create a richer listener experience. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. If you'd like to become a patron, visit our Patreon account. Just $1 a month helps us a lot. You can find a link in the description below. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel and punch that bell icon for updates on our latest shows. And leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answering any questions you might have. This is Tom Rayleigh, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good game.